Yes, hello. Welcome everybody to the second edition. Wow, second already. Podcast of Men Don't Talk United. So, Sad, here we are again.
Again, yeah.
I think people have probably had enough of seeing our faces, but yeah. So I was just saying to you, yes, we Helen and I have just had our 10th year wedding anniversary, and
Woo! 10 years. Time for
yeah.
an upgrade, mate. It's time for an upgrade, isn't it?
Well, I don't know what upgrade that would be, to be honest, because I just want to make the next 10 years.
Definitely,
No, do you know what? Go on.
We've got. You get for everything, in life. We get to upgrade, right? You've got your TV. 10 years have gone. You get a flat screen. You get a new car. No, joking. You can't do that.
See, I was doing this when you said it, but I realized I should be doing that. And I was just like, yeah. I mean, Helen is not going to like this, by the way. And just to everybody who's watching, I did try and get Helen to come and do, a 10-year wedding anniversary podcast, but she does not like her face on these things. So I'm hoping, in a while, I'll be able to get on some kind of podcast. You know, what I mean, I've recommended her, doing, a women's takeover. For example,
that's something that I wanted to suggest to you as well. That the female, our counterparts, our padres, come and give their point of view.
Yeah. I mean, definitely.
You've had 10 years of marriage. There's 10 years of wisdom within you.
Thank you very much.
Obvious, you're welcome. I mean, that's the lack of hair on both ours suggests that we're pulling that out in the love. So yours is an option, isn't it, for you, the hair, right? But no. Well, let's. I mean, that's what I mean. Nourisha's watched it as well, obviously. We can definitely suggest to them to get on.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, right now it's not about the women; it's about the men. Absolutely. On this podcast, it's 99% about the men. Mm-hmm. Yes, I did say that. So I think for me, 10 years, and I called it a decade of love. And I know I put out a few messages out there to family and friends calling it a decade of love, because it is a decade. A decade's 10 years, right? So part of me feels like, because it's just kind of like one of those things. It's just like, oh, how do you feel? Wow, 10 years. And for me, it's like, it's definitely not flown by. I can definitely say that without a shadow of doubt. It hasn't been quick. Marriage is. I've said this when I did my speech at your wedding. I said to you and Nourisha, I said, listen, marriage is hard work, and it is. If there's anybody out there that can say to me, marriage is easy, I want to hear from you. Get in touch.
I agree.
Get in touch, especially if you're a man, and I want to know why, because I'm going to go out on a limb and say there is no man out there that's going to say a wedding is easy, and if they do, I want to hear from them, because that is just absolute cobwebs.
And we don't want newlyweds, please, because you guys are in a honeymoon bubble, and there's a lot of love there for you guys. We want the long haulers, we want the long haulers.
Wait, how long you been married, Sam? Now
I've been married
5, right?
5 years, yeah.
Okay, you're getting there. You're getting there.
I'm getting there, but I kind of, you've told me that, and as I said before in the last podcast, truly, like, you're the man I go to, words of wisdom, as I said. Yeah, you've done it all, you've got it all, you know it all so far. I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, you're ahead of the game. But for me, watching you guys for 10 years is an inspiration, really, because you've gone through a lot, you've been through a lot, and it's, we talk about divorce day. We talk about the rate of divorce these days and how it's quite high. Yeah. And you stood at my wedding. You said it was very hard. Nourish and I often discuss how, we got married and nobody told us how hard it was going to be. Yeah. Nobody told us what the sort of like minute details that we need to be watching out for need to come for. So, like, you telling us that was definitely something we took on board. I mean, 10 years is a long time. In nowadays, not many couples can say they reach 10 years.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so what did you guys do for your celebration for 10 years?
Well, I mean, listen. Before we get into that, before we do before we get into that, I mean, we didn't do a lot, but I think the most important thing that I just wanted people to realize is that, like, it looks great because obviously you see us, and you know we probably go to functions sort of like pre-COVID and all that stuff, and you know, hang out, get to see family and friends, you know, you see, you know, the good stuff from the outside. You see the happy stuff. I'm not saying for 1 second that it's all particularly sad or anything like that, but you know, there's been a lot of, and this is from a man's perspective, is that there's been, you know, a lot of challenges over the years, and certainly from a man's perspective, I certainly feel like there are things that I could have done a lot better about, and you know, it's, you know, there's been things where I feel like I could, as a man, could have come across to my wife a little bit differently in terms of things. And obviously, this podcast is called Men Don't Talk United, so it is about men talking or not talking. So, you know, for me, I feel like, you know, there are things that I'm still working on. So even though we've been married for 10 years, there's a load of things that I'm still working on. I'm still grumpy, particularly in the morning or when I don't get things my way. You know, I am harsh on her sometimes, even when I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Go on.
I was just going to say, can you just elaborate on that point about getting your way? I mean, for us men, I just want to talk to you about. You made a good point. How you just said, you know, you get a bit annoyed when things don't go your way. I mean, really, how do you deal with that situation when? I mean, we're in a relationship, and it's all about talking out your issues, talking out your objectives, what you want, coming to an amicable agreement. So when you say you get upset with not getting your way, how is it you're dealing with that frustration? What is it that makes you feel that you're not getting your way when you're supposed to discuss as a married couple? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, drilling it down to the very basics. You know, to give you an example. So, you know, I mean, this is really drilling it down. But I might say something. I might ask for something, and you know what? I could be in a mood. I mean, obviously, it tends to happen when I'm a bit moody, and I ask for something. And if I don't get it the way I want, I tend to, you know, go in a bit of a strop. This doesn't happen all the time. I mean, obviously, I'm talking about things that, you know, male and female as human beings, we do. Just, you know, everybody's got a bit of a, you know, a moment or a time where you feel a little bit, you know, grumpy, or maybe it's just me. But I guess it's hard to drill down. But it's one of those things that I would say, like, if I look at sort of at the beginning and to kind of now, would I say sort of like my temperament sometimes has improved? Probably not a whole lot, and that's probably because of me being a man. If I'm being honest, I don't really have any male role models in my life. I don't have any people that I can be accountable to. There's people I've always kind of thought that I could be accountable to, sort of like big brotherish people or guys that you can go and you can speak to them and just say, look, this happened with my wife, and you know, it's been a bit of an issue. Or even if it's just something that my wife knows that I'm accountable to somebody. So when I do something and it's really, really bang out of order, and it's like, look, Tendai he's not budging in this, can you talk to him? There hasn't been that person. And maybe there should have been, whether that's family or whatever. And I can't say it's a cultural thing, because what I think most people, I would think, don't really have people that they're accountable to. So it's like, for me, it's like when there's certain issues where I've struggled with, and I'm like, but because I don't have that person who's at the end of the line, that I feel like I can call and say, look, I've had this issue, you know, me and my wife had this kind of issue and blah, 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 blah. And they can just put me in line. And I think also because like with our friends, like maybe between me and you is a little bit different, but with most of my friends, we don't have that kind of open dialogue where we could just say, I'm going to call my mate, you know, I don't know, Dave. And I want to say to him, I want to tell him what's going on. And I know he's going to put me in line. There isn't that. Whereas the women have that. The women have somebody that they can always go to and then they can let them know what's going on. So I don't know why as men, we struggle with that. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say also the people that we should be accountable to don't necessarily come to us as young bloods and say, look, I know you've been married 5 years, 10 years, whatever. I've been married 20 years, 30 years. I've been where you are. So if ever you need advice or anything like that, call me. Or even just to call me every other week or or once a month. And just say, I just want to catch up with you and find out what's happening. I don't know about your culture, Sam, but for me, I know that isn't there. There are people I feel can fill that void. But at the same time, you don't want to go to them necessarily because they have trouble getting in touch with you because they're busy, or maybe they're uncles and they were never really taught that kind of thing. So I feel like maybe it has to start somewhere. So maybe it's starting with us and just saying the other guys that are newly getting married, we go to them and just say, look, we've been where you are. You're only 1 year, 2 years married, or you're about to get married. Whenever you have these sort of issues, come to me because I've been there. And you know what? I'm not perfect as well. So we can work it out together.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. For me, essentially it's supposed to be our parents that we're held accountable for. You know, the whole idea is that your parents should be looking out for you and holding you accountable. However, when we reach a certain age, as a man, we kind of that like, for example, my dad, he's like I said, we've discussed this before. His generation are completely different on dealing with emotions, completely different on how they deal with their wives. So, you know, when I had problems, or if I have any problems, I speak to my dad, and my dad's actual advice is, you know, just go along.
Yeah.
You know, and it goes with the saying as happy wife, happy life. but we're
it is for most people.
I mean, yeah, it is the motto. And I kind of agree with that. A happy wife is a happy life. But then when this accountability, when we do something wrong, and we're technically, you know, we go to our parents and have that discussion. But you, as a man, I'm also afraid to go and speak to my parents about the issues that are around my marriage, because I don't want any negative
reprisals or something. Yeah,
just I don't want anything negative to come out towards my wife.
Yeah.
So we're left in a conundrum. So, and another example is a perfect example is that, yes, you and I converse about our relationships with our partners, but again, there are certain things that I don't tell you and you don't tell me that are far in deeper, because again, there is that negative repercussions. There is that negative reprisal that, Tendai is doing something that I don't agree with. We have an argument, or you know, the same way, vice versa with me. And it could leave our friendship, or in fact, I could tell you something about my wife that you don't necessarily like. And then the next time you see her, you're kind of having that last bit of that last discussion in your mind. So that is affecting your judgment. Yeah. So that sense of accountability needs to happen without any repercussions. So I should be able to come and talk to my dad and have that conversation. And I don't want to hear, put up with it. I need to hear, but they're also
real advice, isn't it?
Yeah, real advice. But then I also don't want that negative repercussions. As a female, that's the thing I think we as a species, male species, we miss. We cannot be open. I feel that women, yes, they judge. Again, I don't know, and they may judge and they may have that, but they're willing to give that person another opportunity, give that spouse maybe the opportunity, or even give that person advice as well, you know, on how to have. But here, we are so like, as men, we are so ingrained.
Can I say emotionally rigid? I've just thought of that phrase. We're so emotionally rigid.
We are emotionally rigid, and we go out with our friends, we have a few beers, we talk about football, rugby, sports, we talk about other things that are. But when it comes down to genuine feelings,
Yeah.
Where our accountability can be, who holds us accountable?
Yeah.
I mean, our wives hold us accountable in the household, and we get to talk about and hold us accountable with that. But I'm talking, what I think we're mentioning here is the emotional accountability.
Yeah.
For example, getting angry because you don't get your own way. If someone was there to speak to and say, oh, I'm having a bad morning, my wife's not letting me do something that I want to do.
Yeah.
That person should be able to give you advice without feeling the necessity to, say something bad about your wife or even judge you on your behavior, but tell you your behavior is not really acceptable in this day and age. How about you look at it a different way? That's where I was when you say moody, because I get the same way when something doesn't happen my way. I get a bit annoyed,
Yeah, we all do, yeah.
And I'm just like, but then we're in a relationship, so we should be able to discuss that.
Yeah.
I completely understand.
So I think for me, a couple of points you made. I mean, so for me, I think, learning over the last 10 years is that, you're gonna have things that are gonna annoy you, things that are gonna really annoy you, things that are even gonna get you angry. I mean, I've had moments, and this is about men don't talk, and we're being real. I've had instances where I've got rather upset. I'm not a physical person or anything like that, but there are times where I've got really angry and I've hit stuff. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened too many times, and I think it's safe for me to say I don't have any anger issues. It's funny because my daughter was singing a song. She's obviously learning at preschool, and it's a song about anger. I can't remember exactly how it goes, but it went something along the lines of, "Oh, it's okay to be angry, but as long as you don't do something along the lines." I can't remember how the song was going, but she started singing it, and it's a very short, straight to the point song. So it's like the whole thing about anger. I think obviously there's a threshold, and I think in some instances it's okay to be angry as long as it doesn't boil over. And I think for men, it's understanding that, and I think that's where the problem has been for me, not being taught that, whether it's by my uncles or bigger cousins, older brothers, whatever. Not being taught that, or coming from a culture where we don't address those kind of things, because everything's about masculinity. It's all right if a man's doing, X, Y, and Z because he's a man. And another point as well I just heard was that this boy went to a birthday party and then he started crying, and then some women there, funny enough, started telling him not to cry because you're a boy. So so when I bring it back, and I guess when I look at sort of the last 10 years of marriage, for me,
that's a perfect example.
So yeah, so for me, for the last 10 years, if there's anything I've learned a lot of things. I guess one of the most difficult things has been to, like, when we've been in arguments, or when certain things have happened, is okay. Basically, my wife is, if you look at it, if we look at a partnership or marriage in terms of a good cop, bad cop, she's the good cop and I'm the bad cop. She's the good cop in the sense that whenever there's issues, she wants to resolve them straight away. I'm the bad cop in terms of whenever I get angry or whenever there's an argument or stuff like that, I'm like, nah, I ain't talking to you. I'm just going to do what I want right now. So maybe I'll just put on Sky Sports and I watch some golf, or maybe I watch some rugby or some football, because I just want to chill out. I want to mull over this anger. You know what I'm saying? I want to mull over this anger and I don't want to talk to you. And I think if there's anything, it's, and I hope my wife will agree with me, that I have changed a little bit. And this is the point that I'm trying to make, is that even though it's been 10 years of marriage, there's still things that I'm still working on. It's never perfect. And this should be a message or a signpost for anybody out there that's kind of, getting newly married. And to be honest with you, you might be a better human being than I am. You might be a better guy than I am. But I think with marriage, it is a lot about cooperating and being patient, basically. But I have to say, my wife does it a whole lot better than me. But then it's just if I just had the right role models when I first started out in marriage, I think I would have, at this point, dare I say it, been a much better husband. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, my wife will probably say that I'm a really good husband, but I always feel like I could have done better. So it's just that not having other men around you, older than you, that have been there, done that, being able to talk to you. So as I say, I mean, I've got friends. I mean, I share quite a lot of things with you, and it's happy to say, actually, we've got quite an open friendship where we can discuss most things, thankfully. But would I say that's the same with some of my other friends? Probably not. And that's not discrediting them in any way, because we're all built differently. But I think when we talk about men talking and stuff like that, does it need to get to a point where just men can talk freely? I don't really know. Can you change the design of a man's mental and emotional psyche? Can you really? Or can you dent it a little bit so you can get them a little bit soft?
I mean, for certainly from my point of view, I think, like you said, after your 10 years of marriage, you're not 100% perfect, but you're working towards it. For me personally as well, I'm the same. We go through, I mean, for us as men, I've always heard the term that we keep everything bottled up. And then once we've hit the top of the bottle, we blow up, and we blow up with everything. Often what's my mistake is I get annoyed at everything. I get annoyed. I hold it down like yourself. I push it down, and then I'm like, okay, I need to calm down. So I'll go for a walk, come back. But like you said, like my wife Nurisha, she likes to discuss things and get them over and done with. We move on with our day. Whereas for me, I, like you, need to go for a walk, need to mull it over. But that being said, I'm trying to change that into a way where, I still keep the things that irritate me down, but the ones that really irritate me the most, I try and talk to my wife. But it's very difficult to change. It is ingrained in us. It is ingrained because of the fact that we don't have those close connections to give us advice and guidance on those troubling aspects about having a relationship, being that our fathers are different, or lack of parents, or lack of male role models. The younger generation today, it's not really changing in that sense. We look at young boys today, they're still trying to act machismo. There are certain young men out there, and I'm not discrediting anybody who are open talkers, who are male open talkers, because I'm all for it. I'm all for, this is why we do this podcast, because it's all about change and bringing a change to men's mentality. A perfect example is that you just said a young boy was crying, and the females of that family were like, "You're a boy, you don't cry." Yeah. Let's be honest. When was the last time you actually cried?
Good question.
As a man from the ages of 11 onwards, how often?
Actually, I can remember last time I cried.
Say, I mean, this is it. You have to go through the last time you act, and I'm saying cried because someone has really upset you, or you've been in an argument with your wife, and that's really emotional. Or even cried in front of your friends. This is like what I'm saying. Like, it can change, and it's down to us to change the younger generations, that it's okay to be upset, it's okay to be irritated, and to voice that opinion, as long as you do it in a healthy way. Having a conversation, finding out why you're irritated, why you're upset, why are you getting angry when something doesn't happen your way. What is it? Where do we sort of come about resolving those issues in a healthy way? We can teach that generation. We can teach the younger people how to do that. This isn't about. I believe we're past the machizo way now, is it not? Is it not that, we've got men out there who are actually in touch with their feelings, that do often cry, but a good majority don't, and that's unhealthy. I wanted to bring this up in the last podcast. Just a general question for people who are watching: the suicide rate for men. Do they know how high it is? It's pretty high. It's pretty high because men don't talk, because men don't let those issues out. We, as you said, is there a way to change that mindset? I don't believe that there isn't. I believe there is. I think we have to, if we are to keep moving forward as men. Another thing is, like, we can talk about another topic I'd like to bring up next time, or another point is, what is our place in society? It is an often question mark place. What is a man's role these days? And I'm all for equal opportunities, equal, my wife can do many things, she currently, knows like certain things that a man would consider himself. I'm sure she can do. There are women out there that are working on construction site. There are women doing what would be called male predominantly jobs.
Yeah.
But where does a man's role in society play? How do we? That kind of ties into our anger issue, because without resolving those issues, without understanding how we can resolve and participate in a healthy way, whether it be within in a married life, or with your girlfriend, with your fiance, with your spouse, we've got to be able to communicate. It's actually important that we do that.
Yeah. I think it's
it's down to us to change that mindset.
Yeah, I think it's a step-by-step process. I think things have to be taken in stages, at least from my perspective. I think, you're right about equal opportunities and all that kind of stuff, but I think we just need to just strip things down, and start with the baby steps, looking at ourselves as men first, and how our role plays. Yeah. So those are obviously very, very valid points. So, if I just ask you, in the last 5 years you've been married, what's been your highlight, and also what's been the biggest thing that you've learned?
Okay, so I've had in the last 5 years, my highlights have obviously been married and having my daughter.
So your daughter, obviously, your daughter is a major highlight.
Highlights have been. It's a massive highlight. To me, but that's the massive highlight. That's so far. I've had 5 years of marriage. I've traveled to a few countries with my wife. We've enjoyed going and visiting places together. Our mutual, another highlight could be that, we've watched rugby together. We've traveled to watch sporting events together. She participates in my life as much as I've participated, hopefully, in her life. That was the thing that I think was the biggest learning curve for me during the last 5 years. I have learned that you don't have to do things. You don't have to do things that you enjoy yourself separately. You don't have to. I don't have to go and watch rugby by myself, or I don't have to sit and watch an action movie by myself. Those are great. Those are.
Does she like action movies?
That's been what I've learned, that we are in a. I just gave that an example. The point being that I probably watch more movies that she likes than I do.
Yeah.
But partly because, she does things for me too. So I think that's the biggest step. Obviously, the highlights are, I've mentioned, but the biggest step. I'd like to say his biggest two steps is I like to do things with her, learning to do that with her. And knowing that she's happy to see, she just wants to see me happy. That's the biggest thing. That's very hard for me, because I'm like, at the beginning it was like, well, you don't want to see me happy because you don't want me to do these things, But what she really wanted was to join me, so that she can enjoy it as well. I think that's and communication. Communication is again something I'm learning still, but I've progressed, as I hope my wife can one day say I've got better.
Yeah.
You know,
and I think
some days she gets really mad and says I'm really crappy at communicating.
And I think this is, I mean, as you're saying that these, platforms like this podcast are really good because it allows us to focus on our roles, particularly men, within the perspective. I mean, obviously right now we're talking about marriage, you being married 5 years and me being 10 years. So, there's a whole lot of issues and things that we can talk about on the women's side and the women's side. But I think it's always important that we talk about our own perspective, because I think that's the key highlight.
That's the whole point.
So I think, go on.
What's been your highlights? Mate? I mean, you've had 10 years. You're a longer distance.
Yeah, I mean,
Kenyan on a marathon, mate.
Yeah, I mean, definitely quite a few. I think, I mean, as you said, obviously being married was kind of like the beginning, of the highlights. And then our daughter coming along was pretty big for me. And it's funny because we talk about men not talking, but having a daughter or son was always going to be a major highlight for me, because even though I didn't really have that relationship myself personally, on a deep level, and I'm talking about between me and my mom and me and my dad, but for me it was always, I kind of knew, or not kind of, but I knew my role on this earth was to be a dad, because I knew I was going to do a lot better than, or at least I was determined to be a lot better than my dad and my mom. And, neither of them have necessarily done a bad job. They haven't. I haven't had a particularly close emotional connection with my mom. I had a connection for obvious reasons, maternal or biological, if you want to get into that detail. But in terms of that, I guess emotional connection has always really struggled. And it's good for me to see that with Hannah, my daughter and my wife. Basically, it's good to see that connection, because you can see that blossomy. But particularly as a man and as a father, is really important for me. And I feel like we're off to a great start. I mean, obviously she's only been on this earth 4 years, but for me, I always wanted to go above and beyond the relationship that I had with my dad, because it wasn't really there. So that's obviously a major highlight for me. One of the other highlights obviously was being at your wedding, traveling down to Canada. That was like awesome. And just being part of that, I always feel getting involved in somebody else's wedding in whatever capacity is a privilege. I happen to be really close to you in terms of the wedding, in terms of how obviously it transpired, obviously being part of the bridal party. So for me, it was like a massive privilege. And also going to a country I've always wanted to go to, Canada. But actually, I should say, for the viewers as well, it was, you guys were umming and ahhing between Sri Lanka and Canada. And part of me wish you went to Sri Lanka, because that was going to be a massive cultural experience for me, because those are the kind of place I would love to go. But Canada was just as good, because it was up there with one of my countries that I always wanted to go to. But there's so many highlights. Meeting my wife's dad, because things kind of got off to a rocky start. So meeting him was a highlight. Helen meeting my mom, and my daughter meeting my grandmother and my side of the family. I mean, so many highlights. I mean, 10 years, it's a whole decade, right? So there's got to be loads in this. So there's been so many. And I think that if there's anything I want people to glean from this, and that perspective, is that like that's the amount of happiness when you work hard at it as a man, dealing with your emotions and everything. Is that's what part of being married is. All those moments and all those highlights, because you work at it. You don't just get in a relationship and you're like, okay, boom, that happens. A relationship had to be built between me and you and my wife and your wife for us to be able to take part the way we did in the relationship. Obviously, we had to build and make sure we had a nice enough home to be able to have a daughter. All the things had to be done right so that we could have a successful first meeting with Helen's dad or my mum and our parents, etc., etc. So all of that takes work. It takes days of just being engrossed with different things, but still keeping that connection. And it is hard work. And I know I keep saying hard work, but it's not to scare people off marriage or whatever. But anything that's worth getting in life is hard work. There's nothing that's worth getting that can be easy, because if it's too easy, then there's got to be some kind of complacency involved. And if there's anything I really wanted to finish on, it was probably that. And just saying that, I've been married 10 years and it's a decade, but I still have things I'm working on. And, I could still be working at certain things 20 years into a marriage, but the commitment made to each other is kind of what keeps us going. So I don't know if you had any kind of last thoughts that you wanted to chip in.
Just real quickly. I mean, I went to a wedding in Malaysia in February. My Nourish's cousin got married, and we had to give the speech because he had a long distance relationship. His wife is Malaysian, and he's Canadian, and he would always come and speak to us about how to manage that long distance relationship. And we had to give the speech because we've obviously influenced a bit of his life, and obviously Nourisha being part of his family, and we were there. And one of the things I just want to end on this note is, it is not about to me being married, being a husband, being a father. I want to earn money. I want to have a good life.
Money's nice.
Money's nice. I want a good life for my daughter and my wife. I want them to live comfortably, and it is very important. But what I'm going to stress to you, to the people who are watching, to the people, it is not about the substance things in life. It is actually about one of the things I said in the speech was, we are here to create memories. You get married to create memories.
Yeah.
So I said at the end of the speech, go out and make memories, because memories make a lifetime. Nothing else does.
Yeah.
Like I said, for 5 years, that's what I really want to say. For 5 years, I've enjoyed being with you. You have memories with your wife and your fat daughter. For 10 years, I have memories with my wife, and now I want to create ones with my daughter for the next life, for our lifetime. We said death do us part, so I want there to be plenty of memories. Everything else doesn't matter. What I want to say is that we're here to create memories. As a man, I'm here to create memories, so that maybe when you and I on a rocking chair outside a porch in an old people's home, we can sit back and say what we did and laugh and giggle. Maybe that's...
Well, you can be in a rocking porch. I'll probably be enjoying my investments, probably turning old cars into amazing new cars, like restorations. I'll be doing that in my 70s and my 80s, mate. So
okay,
you can chill in your rocking porch.
I'll watch you do that. I'll watch you do that while I sit on my rocking chair, relaxing, mate. That's what's going to happen.
You'll probably be chilling somewhere in I don't know, New Brunswick or whatever they call it, or Edmonton in Canada, where we've got the background of the Rocky Mountain, and you've got your nice wooden house and your nice rocking chair, and you've got the views of the lake. Exactly. And I'll be down the road working in my chop shop.
And I'll tell you what you've done wrong and what's wrong with that car.
Yeah. But anyway, really good. Yeah. I mean, this was just like, we didn't want to leave it for too long, so we just wanted to do another podcast. And we thought, obviously, talking about marriage and kind of where you've been with marriage was a good thing, and just kind of sharing some of the things we've learned in past, and the perspective of the men, because that's what people want to hear. They want to hear the perspective of the men and how it affects us. So thanks again, San. Until the next one, everybody check us out again on Instagram and YouTube. We have a special edition. We've got an Italian rapper. Yes, you heard it right. An Italian rapper coming on. I mean, he's obviously based in the UK, but I think it would just be really interesting. He's got a lot of interesting perspectives about being a man, about being a man, and hopefully we can hear a bit more about kind of his life in Italy and in the UK, and just kind of his perspective as a man, and just kind of you know, whether it's dealing with emotions, navigating emotions, and whatever challenges he's had, you know. So that I think, Stan, that will be a really, really good.
I'm looking forward to that one. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, so stay tuned, guys. So hopefully
stay tuned, guys.
that'll be out soon. So yeah, guys, you've been listening obviously to me, Tendai, and
San.
Until next time.
Until next time, keep your heads up, stay strong.
Keep rolling.